All right, we're going to talk about the American Revolution. So let's go ahead and set the stage. A growing number of the English colonists in North America were becoming fed up with the King of England and his harsh ways. Influenced by the ideas of the Enlightenment, the people would attempt to overthrow the strongest nation on earth and create their own nation. So, Britain and its American colonies. Britain's colonies in the Americas were thriving in the 1700s with a population of over 2 million people by 1770. With the increase in population came an increase in the need for the colonists to develop their own identity. Colonists began to see themselves as Virginians and South Carolinians rather than as British. Because at this time, more and more people were being born and raised in the Americas, and they just did not identify with being from England. So they want to have their own identity. In 1651, the Navigation Act was passed, which prevented the colonies from selling their most valuable goods to anyone but the British. Even with this act, the colonies thrived because of the rich trade in natural resources. All right, so we all know Americans, they're going to win their independence from England. So, causes of the American Revolution. We are going to have the defeat of the French in the French and Indian War, where colonies were expected to help pay the war debt. We're going to have the Stamp Act, where colonists must pay a tax to have their wills and deeds get an official stamp. Colonists were outraged because they had never paid direct taxes to England. And this brings up a very important quote that you may have seen around this area, and it says, "No taxation without representation." So you should not be taxed if you are not represented in your government. And where we've seen this is on the license plates in Washington, D.C., because people who live in D.C., they are being taxed, yet D.C. is not an official state within the United States of America. All right, the third is the Boston Tea Party, and this causes the closing of the Boston Harbor by the British Navy. So the growing hostilities are going to lead to war, and in September of 1774, representatives from each colony here in the Americas, they're going to meet in Philadelphia, and they're going to form the First Continental Congress. They issued complaints to the King of England. Well, the King of England, King George, is going to ignore this, and Congress is going to meet for a second time. And this is the important time. They're going to declare their independence from England in July of 1776. All right, so this Declaration of Independence was written in 1776 by Thomas Jefferson. And it's where the colonies are going to declare and break free from the tyranny of England and begin a new nation. And the Declaration of Independence is firmly going to be based on the ideas of John Locke. All right, so the influence of the Enlightenment. So there's a quote. It says, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness." And this statement is protecting our natural rights, and that was influenced by John Locke. And John Locke said our three natural rights are life, liberty, and property. And Thomas Jefferson just changed property to pursuit of happiness. So it might not be a piece of property, it might be something else that you pursue to be happy. All right, another quote says, "We are absolved from all allegiance to the British crown." So John Locke also said that people had the right to rebel against an unjust ruler. So that's exactly what the colonists did. They felt that they had the right to rebel against King George III's abuses and start the United States of America. All right, so I actually advanced a little too fast there. Here we're going to talk about our Constitution. And the U.S. Constitution is going to be based upon the ideas of our Enlightenment thinkers. So we're going to have Locke, that we're going to have a government by the people for the people. We're going to have Montesquieu and his separation of powers into 3 branches of government. Rousseau and his direct democracy and holding public elections. And Voltaire allowing freedom of speech, press, and religion. These are known as our freedoms of expression, and that is what our Bill of Rights is going to be based on. That is our number 1 amendment in our Bill of Rights, the freedom of expression. Here it is, first 10 amendments to the Constitution that protects the basic rights of free speech, press, assembly, religion. Okay, now we're moving on to Standard 6F. And in 6F, you're going to be able to describe the expansion of the arts, philosophy, literature, and new technology. So the essential understandings is that the 16th, 17th, and 18th centuries brought many changes in the arts, literature, and political philosophy. The Age of Reason witnessed inventions and innovations in technology that stimulated trade and transportation. We are going to have new artistic styles, and this style is called neoclassical. In the late 1700s, artists began to work in a simple, elegant style that was borrowed from Greece and Rome. This style was considered new classical. We're going to have representative composers, artists, philosophers, and writers. So the first one we're going to talk about is Johann Sebastian Bach. He is our Baroque composer. How I remember Johann Sebastian Bach being our Baroque composer is this simple little quote that I came up with. It says, "If it's Baroque, take it Bach." So enjoy it. Hopefully you'll use it. Our second composer we need to know is Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. He is our classical composer. Writer that we need to know, and he's also a philosopher, is Voltaire, and he wrote that book Candide, where he talked about being able to voice your opinion, freedom of expression, your speech. Then we have Miguel de Cervantes. He is our novelist. He's going to write what is known as the first novel, and that is called Don Quixote. Then we have our painter, Eugene Delacroix. He is going to paint this lovely painting called Liberty Leading the People. We are going to have new schools of art and forms of literature. Paintings depicted classical subjects, public events, natural scenes, and living people, otherwise known as portraits. We are going to have new forms of literature that evolved, such as the novel. And again, Miguel de Cervantes writes the first novel, and it's called Don Quixote. Technologies that we need to know. We're going to have all-weather roads, and this is going to improve year-round transport and trade. We are going to have new designs in farm tools, which increased productivity, and this is going to lead to the agricultural revolution. And we are going to have improvements in ship design, which lowered the cost of transportation. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is it for our Flip Class video notes number 24. You guys will be taking a quiz on this information next class, so make sure you study the Enlightenment thinkers and hear this bit with our composers, writers, and artists. All right, kids, I'll see you later.